Back in 2014 to 2016, Kris really did have to work to prevent some photos from leaking. The unexpected part was that they were her own private images because someone had hacked her iCloud. Christina, aka the woman that hacked the iCloud, was indicted by a grand jury in 2016. Not only did she hack the cloud, she also sent some pretty messed up texts to Kris and co, assistant, then husband, and other family members. She also, I guess, sent texts pretending to be Kris to Kris's kids and partner. She claimed that she put tracking devices on their cars and would message people that Kris had serious diseases, but it goes even further. The hacker also impersonated the famous matriarch over the phone, allegedly even occasionally calling the authorities with fake emergencies or swatting the family. Swatting referring to calling in fake emergencies that are serious enough to have someone's home checked out by SWAT teams. Just overall being an absolute headache and causing a lot of heartache. Then, of course, there were the accusations regarding social media, because if the hacker got into the iCloud, it really would only be a matter of time before social media sites like Instagram would be compromised. Allegedly, the hacker posted demeaning things about Kris's family as Kris, even going so far as to post phone numbers. And for a family as famous as this, that really is a big problem. Plus, no one wants their mom roasting them on the internet. It was also revealed that the stalker somehow got access to Kourtney's AOL account, so that means she didn't just get the username and password, but answers to the security questions too. The hacker did allegedly get access to the famous sister's emails. It actually ended up happening again with someone else in the family, however, the persecutors were reluctant to share their name. Per E! The stalker was indicted for 6 counts of stalking, 4 counts of computer hacking, 1 count of extortion by threat, and 4 counts of aggravated identity theft related to the computer hacking offenses. Just like a laundry list of bad things. This isn't even the first time that Kris Jenner has been hacked, and I almost wonder if Christina was helped by a previous incident. Back in 2013, Kris Jenner and Kim Kardashian's contact information was leaked by hackers and posted to a website which is like a bunch of other celebrities' personal data. Just a few years ago, an unauthorized photo of Khloe Kardashian was accidentally shared, leading to the famous family doing everything they could to scrub it from the internet. Here's the thing, the photo isn't scandalous, it isn't unflattering, in my opinion, she isn't doing anything offensive. It is literally just a photo of Khloe in a bikini by the pool. She's holding her phone in one hand and smiling for the camera, and that is literally it. That's the whole photo. However, there isn't any filter on the photo. Many photos posted by the sisters and, well, a lot of big celebrities, they use filters to smooth out the skin, smooth out the makeup, shape the body, whatever, right? People are used to seeing an airbrushed look to the family that getting an unfiltered iPhone photo shot was definitely a moment. However, they do occasionally post unfiltered photos, so why was this one a big deal? Well, they said the internet couldn't have it and started contacting people to take it down or risk legal action. So pretty soon, people started sharing it simply because they were told no. Then it became people wanting to see the photo that people were risking legal action from one of Hollywood's richest families for. Then people just being confused why she would want the picture to disappear considering she looks good. Eventually, fans got answers. The reason it had to go was simply because it was unauthorized. One of the many Kardashian or Jenner assistants posted the photo without, I guess, checking the right avenues. The official statement from Chief KKW Marketing Officer Tracy Romulus was, the color-edited photo was taken of Khloe during a private family gathering and posted to social media without permission by mistake by an assistant. Khloe looks beautiful, but it is within the right of the copyright owner to not want an image not intended to be published taken down. For a family of women that have had their every move picked apart, it's understandable that they would want to control exactly what gets out there about them. Of course, the picture is still out on the internet. Khloe ended up posting some photos herself shortly after this went viral. Right now, having a photo with Diddy is like a guilty verdict to the internet, and Kris Jenner doesn't just have one, she's got a whole collection, plus past interviews with him, even one where he admitted that he once had a crush on her. Yeah, so the Kardashian Jenners, it's no secret that to help maintain their status, they interact with other people at the same level of fame, and like it or not, Diddy was one of those people. He was at the top of the food chain when it came to hosting parties and having famous friends. Kris Jenner posted many selfies with the man over the years. It appears that she was quite close with him, and one can assume that she and her daughters received many invites to his parties. I mean, we know that they did because they have been photographed and videotaped at them many times. This has led to people wondering what the famous family knew and if they kept anything quiet. Khloe once spoke about her experience at a Diddy party in a 2014 episode of the reality show. She made claims that many of the attendees were unclothed, and then previously in the episode she had been talking about all the big names that she saw there, and now of course people are wondering if she was at just like a regular Diddy party or the type that he is now in jail for. But back to Kris Jenner, because there is an absolutely wild story circulating online right now regarding the matriarch. One woman that is claimed to be a Diddy victim has shared a troubling story involving not just the disgraced rapper, but also Kris Jenner and Jennifer Lopez. Adria English joined the Lionel B Show podcast to share a story from someone she knew that was allegedly a Diddy victim. She claims that her homegirl was harmed in a ritual to conjure up demons, that J-Lo was damaging her skin using glass, and that Kris Jenner watched. English claims that in order for the girl to escape, she had to pierce Kris's shoulder with the glass. English says that if you look back at past interviews, Kris says that she'd once been pierced. Different word, but hopefully you get it. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find anything that indicated that Kardashian has ever been involved in an incident like that. She doesn't appear to have a scar on either of her shoulders either, and she's worn a lot of clothes that's shown off her shoulders and collarbone. The interview has gathered about 710,000 views on YouTube, with a comment section overwhelmingly in favor of English. Again, I couldn't find anything to support her claims, but Diddy's trial is coming up very soon, so maybe we will get answers then. In an early season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, you might have seen Kim and Kourtney pretty upset over some photos nearly being leaked to the press. Well, fan speculation and facts go hand in hand. Kim K's first husband seemingly wasn't the nicest guy. There are court documents that accuse the man of being physically and mentally rough with the reality TV star. Of course, this was like before the show, so we never actually saw any of that on camera, but the description of the alleged events are hard to read. Anyways, they speculate that this ex-husband was threatening to release some photos of Kourtney, or like Kim and Kourtney, that had them in compromising positions on their own, and some people even claim with each other, which is a whole other can of worms, and is generally proven to be false or a salacious rumor. The photos that have been like confirmed to nearly have been leaked by the ex, they only show Kourtney. However, she isn't in a great position, and to make matters worse, the family claims that she wasn't 18 yet, so yeah, no wonder they didn't want this hitting the press. People speculate that Kim was involved in the photos young too, because she was very upset about the thought of them getting released. However, considering what we know about her first husband, the reaction does make sense. And then finally, Caitlyn Jenner did cause an accident that led to a fatality. Despite having such a serious outcome, people don't really talk about this a lot. It did happen while Caitlyn was like coming out, so people were focused on something very different. However, fans online speculate that the family has done things to minimize the media coverage of the incident. In the end, it's not difficult information to find if you're looking for it, and once you go searching, you will see that. Though Jenner didn't go to jail for the incident, she did have to pay about $800,000 to settle one of the lawsuits. It was found that Jenner was going under the speed limit and did hit the brakes, but it wasn't enough to stop the incident from happening. Honestly, it is a miracle that things didn't go worse. Jenner caused a 4-car pileup, one of which had a whole family inside, including young ones. While it is heartbreaking that not everyone made it out, the medical team was able to save most of that family with minimal injuries.
These celebrities are not a fan of momager Kris Jenner. They've exposed all of her lies and got the receipts to prove it. Mariah Carey exposed Kris Jenner and came with the receipts, okay? While promoting her 8-part docuseries Mariah's World, the iconic Mariah Carey sat down for a 2016 interview with Complex in a private dining room at the posh Malibu eatery Nobu. Now, the Kardashian clan was reportedly filming in a private dining room just 15 yards away. Carey was asked what fans could expect from her, and things took a weird turn when Carey told the magazine her series would not be a put it all out there type of show in the style of the Kardashians. She said, "Some of us talk about other people and what they do and la 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 la, but I'm not that person." Wow. Well, it was reported she showed some footage she had of Kris Jenner acting inappropriate in an attempt to get better ratings. Now, it's a mystery how Mariah obtained that footage, but hey, it is Mariah Carey after all. Wendy Williams. She seems to hold a special disdain for the reality show matriarch and relishes every opportunity to take, jabs at her. Wendy said some nasty things about Kris Jenner and exposed her parenting style, and said on the record, "With Kris, I just find it very uncomfortable that she has her entire family on the line, but her choice is her choice. My choice is not to push my kid out there and be that kid. I don't want to push my family out to be that family. Visual celebrity is really overrated and I don't want that for my kid. When Jenner's ex-son-in-law, rapper Kanye West, was admitted to UCLA Medical Center following his breakdown and abrupt cancellation of his St. Pablo concert tour, Jenner was attending the Angel Ball in New York City, honoring her late husband Robert Kardashian. Now, Kim Kardashian immediately flew out to be by Kanye without Mama Jenner. The next day, Williams went on air and slammed Jenner for being opportunistic, questioning why Jenner was honoring Robert in the first place and why she hadn't rushed to be by Kanye. She said, "I feel like Kris should have been there. She could have jumped on the next plane. It's not like you need to be there to honor Robert. You didn't exactly turn out to be the most honorable wife when Robert was here." Word on the street about alleged infidelity. Now, West eventually recovered and appears to have had a good relationship with Jenner, but we're not sure if Kris ever fully recovered from Williams' burn. June Shannon, aka Mama June. When Here Comes Honey Boo Boo hit the airways in 2012, it was an immediate hit and the show soon started a ratings turf war that reportedly made Kris Jenner feel like a new family was stealing the spotlight from her Kardashian clan. Now, according to a source, they said to say Kris is not a fan of Here Comes Honey Boo Boo is an understatement. She thinks the Thompsons are classless, unlike her family, and can't understand, why America is so fascinated by them. Kris especially has a strong dislike for June, claiming the beauty pageant world is vile and that June is a bad mom for exploiting Alana in that way. One could make the case that Shannon learned how it's done by watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and that's exactly how June, fired back. She pulled out the receipts of all the things Kris Jenner has done to expose her own children for fame and for money. Denise Brown. In 2011, Jenner released her memoir, Kris Jenner and All Things Kardashian, and in its pages, she wrote candidly about Nicole Brown Simpson's passing. Highly criticized at the time of publication for profiting off her former friend's brutal demise, nobody was more vocal and disgusted than Nicole's sister, Denise Brown. Now, Denise said, "Kris Jenner is pathetic. I think most people will question her intentions of writing about my sister's unaliving. I'm really disappointed in Kris. For the past 2.5 years, my family has had some relative peace regarding all of this stuff. Now that Kris has brought it up again, she's split open the healing wounds. For her to write about it is like reliving it all over again. My poor mother is taking it really hard." The Kardashians reportedly made about $65 million in 2011, prompting Denise to ask what many people at the time were also thinking, haven't they made enough? Nicole has been gone for 17 years at that point. Please, Kris, don't profit off my sister's horrible demise, is what she said. Now, this is just a few people, but believe me, the list goes on and on and on of people who can't stand Kris Jenner's.
At number 10, we have Kris's known manipulation and exploitation tactics. Kris managed to land herself a talk show deal in 2013, but her show struggled with ratings, and Kris was soon pulling all types of wild stunts to rack up the viewer count and overall interest of the general public. One of these instances involved Kris making an announcement of, quote, introducing someone very special to her audience. Of course, when she walked in with a baby, everyone had naturally assumed it would be Northwest, who had yet to be revealed to the world at that point. However, the baby ended up being her stylist's newborn. Luckily for her show's future, after that stunt, Kris managed to score the first exclusive picture of North, which was revealed on her show alongside guest Kanye West. At number 9, we have Kris's over-the-top behavior. For starters, she has the Keeping Up with the Kardashian theme as her doorbell tune. Not only this, but in 2016, Kris officially filed to trademark the term momager. She even apparently owns a personalized bathrobe with the same term across the back. I'd say it's low-key weird that she decided to trademark being a manager and a mom, since there are many who existed before her and continue to exist after her. Also, don't get me started on the artwork in the foyer of her home that shows her and her family covered by a painting of Snow White eating the poisoned apple. And while we're on the topic of her home, unsurprisingly enough, if you ever decide to pop a visit to Kardashian, you'll be super glad to know that there's a featured table with a pile of hundreds of non-disclosure agreement papers positioned for anyone who enters to sign before they're welcomed in. Nearby, there's a frame which quotes the old saying, "What we say here, we see here. Let it stay here when we leave here." At number 8, we have her obsession with appearances. Tying into the last part of the point before, Kris has done far more to keep up with her and her family's untouchable image. 6 weeks before Kim's wedding to Kris Humphries in 2012, Kris got her neck and face lifted to ensure she looked her best for their big day. Following this, she described the surgery as transcendental and a life-changing experience. At number 7, we have her children and how much distance they've put between them and their mother. Robert, for one, completely removed himself from his entire family, as Kris would make constant overbearing comments about his weight and personality. Whether or not she knew this was damaging to Rob over time, it was, so that should say a lot about Kris's parenting skills skills and family dynamics over the years. Even Kendall, who seems to be doing really well for herself and avoiding the reality portion of her Kardashian expectations, has banned Kris and the rest of her family from almost all of her shows. Kendall did this due to the paparazzi and fans creating buzz over her entire family instead of her at her own events. It's genuinely sad that her mom has spent so many years chasing fame and big bucks that Kendall can't even attend her own shows without the media going into a straight frenzy. Despite most children wanting their parents to be with them while they achieve success, Kendall would rather not, and really, I don't blame her. At number 6, we have probably the weirdest red flag on this list, and that's Kris copying Kim's style. Kim has openly complained non-stop on their show about how annoyed she is over her mom copying her sense of fashion and quote, stealing her spotlight. Of course, Kris seems to be a bit unreasonable in this sense, but hey, I'm not a parent, so what would I know? As a daughter myself though, if my mom ever started directly jacking my style, I'd like to think I'd make a big deal out of it too. It's quite tacky and really irritating for parents to try to be cool and act like more of a best friend rather than a parent to their kids, and that shows through the Kardashian children's upbringings. Of course, there's no problem in being a friend to your child, but there has to be boundaries to this and lines that are not crossed. Unfortunately, I don't think Kris understands this because she's constantly stepping into the friend zone, and in turn, her mothering pretty much goes out the window. At number 5, we have Kris Jenner's selfish tendencies. She is remarkably such a parent in a sense where everything has to go her way and under her saying, but she seems to go so overboard with this ideology. The driveway looking a certain way to their neighbors, if they were to ever use it for its actual purpose, because God forbid anyone did that, is just one instance of many. There's also the fact that not one single being, especially a man, has the ability to divide their family unless it benefits them on the fame scale. And if they do manage to squeegee their way in, they're completely pushed out of the picture to make room for someone who's willing to get the job done. I mean, if this is what we're seeing on screen, can you imagine the absolute self-centered and selfish behavior she exudes when the cameras aren't rolling? Not to mention, she enjoys playing favorites and even once stated that Kim was her favorite daughter of the bunch. I mean, it's obvious why, as Kim is responsible for the entire Kardashian startup, but it's still grossly wrong for a parent to enable this type of mindset. At number 4, we have Kris, who used to constantly ignore the Jenner sisters. As their stepmom, by no means is it her official responsibility to care for them, but at the very least, just acknowledge them. Back when Caitlyn identified as Bruce and Kris was still a Jenner by choice, Kris was displayed on the show to constantly shy away from spending any extra time with Kendall or Kylie, or even simply being in their presence. The trio never looked quite comfortable being alone together, and the Jenner sisters were rarely or reluctantly invited to their family vacations. And this wouldn't necessarily be as bad if their family's loads of boyfriends weren't also being invited to these family vacations, while 2 of their key players are missing. I'm not sure if it's because Kris didn't consider them to be hers, or if they weren't bringing in enough bank at the time to be important, but it does strike me as odd how much she seems to love and always want them around now that they're both huge household names. At number 3, we have Kim, a grown woman with her own children now, accusing her mother of being a bad parent. This just seems to be the icing on the cake of truth in regards to actually being a bad mom, when your own daughter raising a family is the one airing you out, regardless of whether Kim stated this during a heated argument or not. And speaking of Kim, when she was reluctant to pose for Playboy back in 2007, Kris was all for it and told her in short, quote, honor the tradition set by Marilyn Monroe and Janet Jackson. Once Hugh Hefner demanded more nudity, Kris was also the one to insist Kim shoot nude, aside from the dozen strings of carefully placed pearls on her body, despite Kim's hesitance. Luckily, Kim took her revenge by forcing Kris to do a naked shoot of her own, donning a single American flag alongside Caitlyn's gold medal. Unsurprisingly enough, Kris pulled it off and later had the image blown up and framed. At number 2, we have Kris being the ultimate micromanaging control freak. This is literally her entire personality wrapped up in a pretty bow. Her nannies have zero room to question her or her daughters and must do everything they say, even if they don't agree with their parenting styles. Photos only happen on Kris's terms, so for the Kardashian Jenner crew or anyone who works under them, taking photos comes at a huge price. For example, reportedly their nannies cannot take images while on the clock, especially of the kids, as this typically runs for a lot of money for publications. Kris forces her daughters to follow guidelines when they post on social media. They even have a fee schedule confirmed by Kris herself. Kris must micromanage at all times, and by this, she must run her household exactly how she sees fit. At number 1, we have Kris's uncanny ability to bank off her family. She self-brands herself as grandmager amongst her momager title, so it's no surprise she was elated to learn there would be 3 new bundles of joy expanding her family. Obviously, her emotions were routed in a different kind of happiness though, as she only really sees the monetary value in her current grandchildren. At one point, Kim, Kylie, and Khloe were all set to welcome their children into the bunch around the same time, and all Kris saw were dollar signs amidst the news. She later opened up about the possibilities of releasing a Keeping Up with the Kardashians spin-off centered around her and her 6 grandkids, Mason, Penelope, Rain, North, Saint, and Dream. If that doesn't tell you this is Kris's biggest red flag, I'm just not sure what will.
Kim Kardashian recently shared how she makes sure her kids aren't finishing all their Halloween candy. In an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live ahead of her American Horror Story Delicate Part 2 finale, the 43-year-old reality star and entrepreneur shared with Kimmel what it was like growing up next to Madonna in her childhood and adult years, and what it's like trick-or-treating with the Material Girl singer. Kimmel's like, I would imagine this is like a celebrity neighborhood, but like, you got good candy, right? Kim was like, yes, and then Kimmel was like, Madonna allowed her kids to eat candy? She seems very healthy. And Kim was like, yeah, absolutely, she's very healthy. But I mean, I take it and then I throw it away, or I donate it. Kimmel was like, okay, so if you take away your kid's candy, next time videotape it. I'd like to have it. Kind of a hobby of mine, which obviously he was referring to his viral segment where every year, the day after Halloween, parents videotape their kids, telling them they ate all their candy, they send him the video, he plays it, and people laugh, or so I'm told. Apparently with fame comes the right to be slobs, at least according to the Kardashian housekeepers, who claim the girls never clean up after themselves, yet expect their rooms and closets to always be camera ready. Well, there's no doubt that the Kardashian women are busy with their multiple shows, their families, numerous business ventures. Some folks have argued that they don't have the right to be so demanding of the housekeepers who help to tend their homes, which I agree. This even led to a lawsuit in 2021, as reported by NBC News, with 7 workers, not 1, not 2, but 7, claiming that Kim Kardashian failed to pay overtime, cover expenses, and provide legally mandated breaks, while expecting her housekeepers to always be on call to pick up after her. Look, if you want luxury services, you've got to pay luxury prices. That's how it is. You've got to pay overtime. You got to pay expenses. You have to provide breaks. Legally mandated for a reason. Shayna Moakler, Travis Barker's ex-wife, went on a podcast and claimed that Kim Kardashian hooked up with him, which is a major bombshell considering Travis is now married to Kim's sister Kourtney. Not only that, but there was allegedly cheating involved. Yeah, Shayna claimed that Travis was seeing Kim behind her back and that Kim played a major part in the breakdown of their marriage. Now, this was during an appearance on the Dumb Blonde podcast, and Shayna revealed that she and Travis were working on their relationship when she was sent text messages between him and Kim from some anonymous source. What did those text messages say? They were trying to meet up at her sister's house to do the deed. Now, apparently when she showed the text to Travis, he had already deleted them. So yeah, she had reason to be suspicious. But what people can't seem to get over about this story is the fact that Travis might have been interested in Kim before he was into Kourtney. And that's something that would promote hurt feelings all around. But like, is Kim Kardashian really a homewrecker? Would she really go after her sister's man and not put it on TV? I don't know. Sounds unlikely to me. I feel like this should have been a storyline of some sort on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They say that as you get more and more famous, you get more and more lonely and isolated. Like, Kim K used to have a lot of high-profile celebs on her list of friends. We're talking Beyonce, even Taylor Swift for a hot minute. But her former assistant Stephanie revealed that Beyonce and Kim had quite the feud and often badmouthed each other, which hasn't become like super known because they did it privately in their homes. Stephanie also said that Kim has a hard time keeping friends because she thinks she's better than everybody else, and she tries to be better than everybody else too. Let's see, we've got a whole list of people that she's cut off over the years. Jordan Woods, Blac Chyna, and Drake. It's easy to judge someone who has a big ego, but would any of us act different in Kim's situation? Most of us will ever know, but like, why would you think you're better than your friends? According to a March 2023 Bloomberg Businessweek report, Kim was questioned by the feds as part of this crazy investigation into the big Malaysian financier. I think his name is Zhou Lo, who was a mogul at the center of the big infamous 1MDB fund embezzlement scandal. So US prosecutors alleged that Lo had stolen at least 4.5 billion from One Malaysia Development Berhad, which was founded and led by a former prime minister. The Justice Department indicted Lowe in 2018 for conspiring to launder billions of dollars stolen from the development fund and paying out hundreds of millions of dollars in bribes. And since then, he's been like a fugitive. I think he's living in China. In 2019, Kim told the FBI that she once played Baccarat in a Las Vegas casino with Lowe and others, and she ended up winning big. Now, he told her, keep your chips, which were worth $350,000. And she told the FBI that when she went to the casino counter to cash out, she was handed $250,000 in a trash bag full of $100 bills. So she put the trash bag full of cash in her carry-on bag and boarded a Southwest Airlines flight back to LA. Once again, sketch. On a later trip to Vegas, Kim collected the remaining $100K, again, in a trash bag. Look, I don't know a lot of big gamblers, but this sounds sketchy. Don't you think? Let me know in the comments. The Kardashians are known to take many extravagant vacations and ventures, and one memorable visit to Bora Bora on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, people will know about it. Well, there, Kim reportedly lost her diamond earrings, leading the whole family to search the water for her prized jewelry. Naturally, losing something of such great worth and importance brought plenty of viewers in and sparked a lot of discussion online about the episode. Everybody was worried, where's Kim's earring? Seriously, like, there's people who have never seen a whole episode of the show, but if you quoted them, Kim, there's people dying, they'd roar laughing. I'm not even a super fan. I quote it all the time. But the problem here, according to RadarOnline.com, Kim's ex-husband, Kris Humphries, said it didn't actually happen. Kim didn't lose her earrings. The move was a publicity stunt to get views. While this surely wasn't the only time Keeping Up with the Kardashians created a false moment, the lost earrings are a prime example of the lack of reality in the reality show. It also shows viewers should reserve judgment and sympathy when something happens on the show, since it might be fabricated for views, which is something we'll talk about more in a moment. We all know reality TV is quasi-scripted by this point in our lives. If you didn't, my bad. But like, when something is this heavily scripted, it's just annoying. When you hear about the Kardashians, you probably automatically assume they're entitled divas, and sadly, you're not wrong. Reports have surfaced that the Kardashians, especially the younger generation, were very kind to the camera crew when Keeping Up with the Kardashians first started in 2007. But as the show progressed, the family got a lot more famous, their kindness and respect for the crews they worked with dwindled, causing unpleasant and unfriendly moments, to say the least, behind the scenes. Ah yes, when fame and money reveal people's true colors. According to The Sun, the Kardashians repeatedly berate crew members and make unreasonable demands on anybody in their path. Additionally, the girls often try to direct what happens or demand multiple reshoots of simple moments on the show to place themselves in the best light they can, at the expense of the rest of the family and crew. Well, after learning how poorly they treat their staff, this probably isn't like a big surprise revelation to anybody, but like it's not a good thing, and probably something the girls want to keep under wraps. One of the most talked about events of Keeping Up with the Kardashians was Kim's extremely short-lived marriage to Kris Humphries. This marriage lasted less than 3 months and commanded headlines for like months if not years following the split. The whole situation was awkward and Humphries reportedly felt betrayed by Kim, feeling that the marriage was all in the name of ratings. The 72-day wedding will forever live on in infamy. And when you consider there's no such thing as bad publicity, I guess it was a boon for the girls. Why would they waste all that time and money? No. Why would you waste all that time and money if it wasn't gonna work out? Who knows? According to the Washington Post, the marriage was meant for just PR, just to drive awareness and ratings for the show. In fact, Kim wanted her goodbye to Humphries to be on the show, but producers were like, it's a little much. These days, Humphries wants nothing to do with the family and has asked to be completely omitted from Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Sorry dude, wish you all the best away from this circus. This is probably one of the worst kept secrets, but it's worth mentioning. So easily one of the most controversial moments in the Kardashian saga is the release of Kim's intimate tape with Ray J. When the tape was first leaked, Kim sued the company to keep it out of the public eye. But a lot of folks have pointed out that Kim has made an impressive $5 million from the home movie. And it's possible that this leak was a publicity move. In fact, Ray J himself said it was Kim's mom, Kris, who actually released the tape. A lot of people believe the release by Kris was meant to drive attention to the family, and it worked. Only 6 months after the tape was leaked, Keeping Up with the Kardashians premiered with strong viewership. For her part, Kris did do a lie detector test on The Late Late Show with James Corden and said she had nothing to do with the leak. But like, who's gonna trust a lie detector test on a talk show? Also, who trusts James Corden? As one might expect from a reality TV show these days. Yes, I've already said it, not everything you see is real. And a lot of the events on Keeping Up with the Kardashians were staged, including Kourtney's vicious vocal battles with Scott. It's just bonkers. According to the New York Daily News, once the camera stopped rolling, the duo would laugh about the filmed fights and the drama, and they would discuss how it would drive viewership up. That being said, it's also been revealed that Scott has faced serious addictions. leading some folks to wonder if the fights on the show were real, they were scripted, they were a mixture of both, just playing off of the original fights. The assumptions made were, well, maybe the fights being fake was a cover-up for how serious the issues were in the relationship. Regardless, there's no denying the tension these fights created among fans of the show. The duo ended up splitting for good in 2015, and Kourtney is now married to the famous musician Travis Barker. I guess we'll just never know what's real, what's calculated with the Kardashian family.